So we had absolute huge news. I mean, breaking news, but huge news in the real estate industry. And I think that it's huge news not just for the agents and the brokers in the industry, but it is huge news for buyers and sellers of real estate, consumers in the industry. And that news was that Rocket Mortgage, they call it Rocket Companies, but really Rocket Mortgage went out and purchased Redfin, a company that was bleeding over $1 billion a year, lost a ton of money, but they purchased them for $1.75 billion. And, when you first see that, it's kind of like, oh, wow, big deal. I don't think people realize just how big of a deal this is. When you start to look at what actually happened here, this is a bit of a Cold War. This is in direct response to what you see Zillow doing and has been doing with their super app. It's another thing I don't think people have been paying enough attention to. Zillow has their super app, and it's the idea that the whole process is done, within this one app. And what most people don't realize is about 20% of people, 20% of consumers going to Zillow are now using that app, and they're hoping to get that up to 75%. And that really pulls them away from local. And that's really the play here that I think we need to understand is we need to decide, not just agents and brokers, but more importantly, consumers, you need to decide what kind of an industry do you want. This is a bit of, in my mind, a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is a frog in boiling water where we're not paying enough attention to it because this is an effort to drastically change how real estate is done. And I know a lot of you hear that, especially on the consumer end, and you're like, good, that should happen. There's a lot of places where I absolutely agree with you. I've been, if you look me up, I've said it many times. I think there's a lot of places that the industry needs to change. There's places we need to grow. There's places we need to pivot. Every day you work hard to put yourself out of business or somebody else will. But I don't believe that this is the experience that people want. I've talked about for years how we are in the economy of convenience, okay? The convenience economy. And this is an example of us falling into that. That's why I called it a frog in boiling water, because this feels convenient and it feels really easy. And when you have people who are on that super app, that Zillow app, they've got everything in one place, makes it so easy. You're dealing with your mortgage person, they've got Zillow Home Loans. At first it was Nationwide Lending or something like that. Now it's Zillow Home Loans, easy. And you've got e-signatures on there. You've got a CRM, you've got title, you've got all these things, and it sounds so great from a consumer perspective. But we just came through a time where everybody's going buy local, buy local, buy local. And what we have to decide from a consumer perspective is, are we going to buy local? We spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about things like institutional buyers. And it's a big thing in the real estate industry. You don't want a ton of institutional buyers. And in your neighborhood, you have to ask yourself, do you want a bunch of institutions buying the properties around you, or do you want local people buying those homes around you, owning them, taking care of them, living in them, raising children in them? What kind of society do we want? And this is the institutionalization of the home buying and selling process. Make no mistake about it. That's where this starts. This is the Cold War. This is Redfin. This is Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Companies trying to compete with Zillow. This is them looking at not only their own lead creation, because now when somebody goes on Redfin, I don't know if they'll change the name or not to the actual lending side from Rocket, but now every one of those people now, they're going to try to get pre-approved and work with a mortgage broker through them, right? Make it nice and easy. And whether that means that they will, somehow try to cut out the middleman or, not pay as many real estate fees and then make it up on the back end on the actual loan or whatever it is, this is a direct response to what you saw Zillow do, or what Zillow is doing right now with the idea of bringing everything in-house, okay? And you have to decide, do you want to, when you're searching for a home, and it comes to the lending side of things, do you want to deal with someone locally? Do you want to deal with someone you can go and touch and feel and see and actually meet with? Or do you want to deal with a call center? Do we want to become a call center industry? And my message to the people in the industry, the agents and the brokers who see this and don't like it and are worried about it, I've said for years, you can't steal something that someone is taking care of. And so for those of you that are worried about these types of institutions coming together and then stealing your clients, stealing your consumer, look, you should have some concern about that. There's no doubt about it. But you can't steal what you're taking care of. One of my messages that I've been talking about for a long time now to agents and brokers at the events that I do all over the country, really all over the world, is the idea that we need to, as agents and brokers, integrate into every area of the consumer's life pre and post close. Okay, we can't only be involved in the things that immediately lend themselves to buying or selling. We need to be integrated into all of it. And that's what these super apps are trying to do. They're trying to integrate into all of it. When you've heard me, to the brokers and agents out there, push like crazy and say, hey, you guys need to be getting onto a platform like mosaic.io, mosaik.io. I'm telling you that because you need to be integrated into everything. You need to be integrated into the search beforehand. You need to be integrated into the offers that are happening. You need to be integrated into the post-close. You need to be integrated into the vendors they're working with 2 years down the road. You need to be integrated into the property impact reports. You need to be integrated into everything, whether they're raising their hand and saying, I'm buying or selling or not. You need to be integrated. When I'm telling brokers, if you're running a brokerage right now and you're not using First Up, FYRSTUP, firstup.com, and you aren't integrating into the pre-market side of things, then we are not giving our agents what they need to integrate into the whole process. And so my message to everybody right now is understand just how big of a deal this is. This is not small. Rocket Mortgage overpaid by a lot, and they did it for a reason. It was similar to when Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion, and people were like, what are you doing? And we thought that they way overpaid, but the truth is they way underpaid. This is that same play. This is the play for the future. And so many of you agents and brokers, you better be integrating into all parts of their life or you're going to be gone. And to the consumers out there, you need to start to think about what kind of an industry do you want moving forward? Do we really want to buy local? Do we really want to deal with people we can see and touch? Do we really want that? Or do we want to deal with call centers when it comes to the third most stressful thing we'll ever do? Buying a home, the largest asset we're ever going to own. Do we really want some call center with people fluctuating in and out that we'll never see? Or do we want to make sure that when it comes to the most personal thing, one of the most personal things we ever do, which is, the place we're going to raise our kids, the place that we're going to sell, the place we're going to, whatever that happens to be, what kind of a future do we want? We are now being forced into a place where we need to make those decisions, and I hope we make the right decisions. And the agents and brokers out there, I hope you're making the right decisions on what you need to be doing moving forward, because staying still and staying where you are is not where you need to be. I've said forever, competition, disruption, it either eliminates you or it makes you better. And this is an example. You can get mad at these companies, but I respect what they're doing from a business perspective. It makes sense, right? They answer to their shareholders. These moves make sense. But rather than you getting incensed, you need to look at it and go, what do we learn from this? They're integrating into all areas, but they still want you. But the only reason they'll go to these other places who don't have boots on the ground and don't understand everything about the local market and don't have all of that networking connection and all of those things is because we have not moved to the place to make it convenient for them. Are you building a business? Are you building your real estate business in a way where you are integrated into all areas, helping them in all areas, or are you still stuck in the place where you can only help them when they're buying or selling? That's a question all of you are going to have to answer, and I hope you answer correctly.